Hello and welcome. I am your host of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Author Karen E. Osborne. I have 5 novels out. The latest is Justice for Emerson. I am so glad that you're here. This is a space for readers and writers to come together and talk about books. So I always tell you that you're going to meet a special person. That's because I only let special people on my podcast. That's why. And today you are going to re-meet a special person. Kerry Chaput was with us it was over a year ago, don't you think, Kerry? It was
I think
about
it was,
a little
yeah.
over, yeah, a little over a year ago. And she had so many books to tell us about. And today is publication day. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So the new book is called Wild as the Stars. And this is how it's described: a glittering adventure into the dark world of theater. This mother daughter saga brings the roaring 20s to life with magical twists and vivid details. Pick up your copy of this enthralling tale of legacy and love. Well, that sounds really intriguing. So let's start there, Carrie. Tell us the premise, the setting, the era.
Yeah, it's set in 1928 Seattle. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so I really like writing historical stories set in the Pacific Northwest. And as you know, I'm a historical fiction author, but I really wanted to step into historical fantasy a little bit.
Mhm.
And so that's what this is. And so I took the idea of prohibition and I thought, well, what if they ban alcohol and magic? What if that's what prohibition looks like? So it's set in 1928 Seattle. Prohibition has banned magic and alcohol. And my main character, Eleonora, she is a magic dancer. And her mother was also a magic dancer, but now it's been banned. And so she has to decide if she's going to try to step up into her birthright, which is to be on the stage in the spotlight and risk a very fateful end like her mother had. And she tries to not do that, but that ruins her life as well. So she's sort of stuck in the middle deciding how much am I willing to risk.
How old was she when her mother died?
She was a teenager. She was about 15, I think.
That's a rough time to lose your mom. That's
Yeah.
real. So what inspired? I mean, you said to us, well, I love this era, and what if magic was part of it? But was there anything else that kind of inspired this take on the story or this character?
Yeah, you know how it goes. You start to write a book with one intention, and then as you write it, it kind of takes, another direction that you don't always see coming. And that always happens to me. So I really wanted to write something set in vaudeville. And that's kind of where I started. And I started writing
Hmm.
kind of dark theater tale. And really, it took a turn, and my main character ends up struggling with anxiety and panic attacks, which I have had my entire life and have always sort of tried to manage. And, it's an ongoing battle. But I was also kind of frustrated with the lack of representation from mental health in books. And when it is there, I find that it is kind of thrown in as an afterthought. And I really ended up writing Eleonora as her name, as growing up watching what happened to her mom and it creating so much anxiety in her that the idea of stepping on stage brings about full meltdown panic attack where she blacks out. And so how in the world do you step into your life that you supposedly want to live, which is on stage and dancing, when you can't even do it without blacking out? So I really liked that idea of how do you overcome that.
You're so right about people not writing mental health in among ordinary people. It's always some murderer or some,
Yeah.
something vicious, not just those of us that are just struggling and trying to live. And so I really like that. So tell us a little bit more about Eleonora. Like, what do you love about her as a person?
I love that she loves and fears equally. Like she loves people in her life so much that she almost fears those relationships. She loves her dream so much that she fears it. And so she's got this internal battle all the time that makes her very lonely because she has so much going on in her head and in her world and in her heart. She has so much love for people, but she honestly can't really figure out how to how to communicate that and how to bring people into her world because she has lost everything, and so she's afraid to get close to people. And so I love that she fears from a place that is so good, and it's out of just so much love for the world. And I think that that came about from really researching anxiety and listening to different takes on it. And I heard someone say that once, that part of the reason you have anxiety is because you love life so much that you don't want to let it go. You don't want to let a moment pass. You put so much pressure on it. So I wrote her with that in mind.
Wow. Wow. I have to really think about that. I used to
I
have
know a
anxiety
friend,
attacks all the time, but that's really interesting.
it is, a friend sent me a video about a woman was reading a poem about the reason that you have anxieties because you love life so much, and that's a beautiful thing. And it really hit home for me. And I think I had that in my head when I was writing the story.
Yeah, wow. I like that, Carrie. I like that a lot. I'm gonna have to kind of re-examine myself and my anxiety attacks.
I'm going to see if I can find that poem for you and send it to
That
you.
would be wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, my novel, True Grace, I ventured into historical fiction, and it happens during the Roaring Twenties as well, 1924. What is it? What do you think it is about that time that so many writers and so many readers choose that
Yeah.
time in history to write stories about? Do you have any theories about what's so magical
Well,
about?
yeah, I think so. I actually am just finishing up a revision for a book set in the Gilded Age, which is sort of similar to the 20s for me in my head, because we have these little pockets of time, like in the 1920s, where, okay, we're done with World War I and we're stepping into a new world of opulence and of excitement. And you have, of course, the kind of dream background of the Art Deco and the shiny, glittery things and the lacquered gold and all of that. Um, but for me personally, the reason that I'm drawn to that is because I write women's history. And when you look at where women were, they were in the Victorian and Edwardian era, they were wearing high collared dresses. They were wearing, yes, the tight corsets, the big bustles, the crinoline. I mean, just so much. And everything was manners and which hand you were allowed to use to sip the tea and all of the crazy beauty rituals. And then we step into the 20s, and all of a sudden now women are kind of taking control of their body and their clothing. And now we're showing leg and we're wearing high heels and we're dancing and we're free. There was this shift towards a little more bodily autonomy for women, I feel like. And then the Great Depression crashed it out. And then everything gets pulled back. So for me, the 20s represents a step forward for women in a lot of ways before everything kind of bottomed out.
Yeah, good. So when we got the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Women started smoking,
Mm-hmm.
which was only a man's thing. Was there anything when you were researching? Because I know, anybody who writes historical fiction lives in history rabbit holes.
Yeah.
That's just it's where we are. Was there anything that you discovered when you were researching for this book that like, startled you or surprised you or made you laugh? Just something that you could share with our audience.
Yes, I was surprised that when I was researching vaudeville and the performers of vaudeville, the women that were performing on the vaudeville circuit were some of the highest paid women in the world. They
Whoa.
actually had a lot of power, and some were their own producers, and they were starting to stand up to the male run industry at the time because they knew that they were stars and they had the power to do so. So they started saying no to the requirements for outfits. They started demanding higher pay, and they were some of the highest paid women in the world. I loved that fact when I read it.
Yeah, wow. Especially when you fast forward to when, the only way women could get jobs was on the
Mhm.
couch with the producer. And, it's like we swing back and forth as women. Our freedoms and it's like this constant fight.
Yeah, because it's not linear. It's like everything else in life, right?
Yes.
You make a step forward and then you get knocked back, and hopefully you just keep climbing forward.
Keep climbing forward. Was the best paid women in the world, Audible.
Yeah.
I love that fact. That is so cool. So, as you know, we like to recommend books to our readers. And besides your book, besides all of her books, you can go and look on Amazon and find all of her books. Oh, and please show us the beautiful cover of this. I love this cover. Do you have the cover with you?
Oh, I hold on. Let me get it.
Yeah, yeah, go get it. It's such a gorgeous, gorgeous cover.
So this was done by Asha Blue, and there we go.
Wow,
Yeah,
that
she
is
did an amazing
gorgeous.
job. I love how she did the spotlights by the title. So well done, Asha.
That really is. That's a gorgeous, gorgeous title. And Wild as the Stars is the name of the book. So last time that we were together, you and I had a lovely chat about Kristen Hanna and the Nightingale
Mhm.
and the Four Winds. And then you also recommended Yellowface, which I then promptly went and read by R.F. I don't know how you pronounce the last name, Kwang?
I think Wong. Maybe? Yeah.
Kuang. I don't know exactly. Kuang,
Yeah.
Yellowface. Terrific book. So did you bring us something really intriguing and good today?
Yeah, my top read of 2024 was called The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. And Adrienne Young is usually a young adult author, but she's sort of stepped into adult. And I really loved this book. I mean, I listened to it on audio, and I listened to it in one sitting. It was on a road trip, and I just, my poor family, I just put my headphones in and talked to them the whole trip because that's all I was doing was listening. It was so beautifully written. It's a time travel story with a lot of little like threads, that kind of get pulled, and it affects different parts of the time continuum. And it was just a really lovely kind of story about family and falling in love and finding your people across time. I thought that was really a really wonderful story. So that was my top read for last year. I also read the entire catalog of Ruta Sepetys, is my other favorite, who I just adore. And her latest was a middle grade book, and I just finished that. So now I've finished all of her books. And she also is technically a young adult historical author, but her books read very adult. They're very adult themes. They're multi POV, but they're usually from the point of view of teenagers during wartime or during difficult times.
Mm,
Not a perspective you get very often. And I just get completely engrossed in her books. I find them to be fabulous.
that's really interesting. It's funny. I don't usually read middle grade books unless they're
I don't either.
in a series that my 14-year-old grandson loves, and then I find myself, like reading. But
Yeah.
Michael Connolly, is it? This has a new one out that during World War II
Mhm.
with teenage point of view.
Oh, there you go.
Isn't
So
that
yeah, very similar. The
isn't that
middle
interesting?
that just came out is called the Bletchley Riddle, and it's set at Bletchley Park with the code breakers
Mm.
during World War II. So that's always really fascinating.
Is cool. So now I know that all of you are so intrigued with Kerry. You want to read her. First of all, you want to go back and listen to her last interview, and I'll have a link to that because her other books are so wonderful. So you want to go back and look at those. You want to go and find Wild as the Stars. It comes out today. So just go on, read it, write a review. But where else, Kerry, could our listeners, viewers find you if they wanted to be like in personal touch, like your website or your newsletter, TikTok?
Yeah, you can go to my website, which is kerrywrites.com, and I do a monthly newsletter that I actually adore writing. It's one of my favorite things to write my newsletter. I put a lot of time into it. I can also follow me on Instagram at Kerry Writes, and I'm very active on Substack. It's under Badass Women in History with Kerry Chaput. And I do weekly articles about women's history and sometimes attach some short stories, some fiction stories to that as well.
You said it all so fast. So, what is the name of your Substack?
It's called Badass Women in History with Kerry Chaput.
That's so cool. So please, I hope that you're already following me. You're following me on Instagram and on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. And now you're adding Kerry, if you hadn't already, to the people that you follow. When you do get in touch with her on her website or wherever, please let her know that you met her on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? See you next week, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.